That was too abrupt of an ending. I was just moving. I was moving my way into Monday. And it just stopped.
I'm sorry. I'll make it longer.
The just fell out.
I'll make it longer. So,
no,
good
you
morning.
need like a fade or something. That was just like so abrupt. I just like felt let down.
I will work on it. So
okay,
good morning. Welcome to Awakenings Within Coffee Chat. Coffee chat. You got coffee? Who's got coffee?
Every Monday. I have Old Reliable.
I have seashells, hoping to get to the seashore.
Isn't that like one of those tongue twisters?
Sandy
goes seashell something. Yes. I don't know. There's some sort of a tongue twister.
Seashells by the seashore. Exactly. I sell them, but I don't want to sell them. I just want to look at them. Okay. So hi, Christina. Hi, Linda. Nice to see you guys. Good morning.
Yeah,
Mugs up.
As warm as it's been here in Kansas City, you really don't even need to go to Florida. It's like,
oh my goodness, I love it. Shh. If it doesn't know, don't tell it. Shh. Don't tell the weather that it's supposed to be different.
For people listening in, what makes it sort of paradoxical is the fact that a week or two ago we had snow on the ground. So we're having Mother Nature right now in Kansas City is schizophrenic and actually has no idea what she wants, because
exactly
1 minute we're all like in winter clothes and then the next minute we're yanking out our summer clothes, then we're putting on our winter clothes. So
well, some of us yank them out. Some people leave them up all year. So
well,
hi, good morning, Larry.
Go to Florida.
Yes, I can't wait. Whenever that might be. It's what here, tropical sport. She's in Florida. Christina is.
Christina's in Florida. There you go.
And then Linda is in Virginia. So they're by the beaches. So it's nuts. I want to be back by the beach. I don't know how I got landlocked. Landlocked is not good for me. I'm not good landlocked.
No. Oh. Well, that's one of the mysteries of my own life, is that probably for me, in terms of environment, my favorite year of my life was living in Estes Park, Colorado. I mean, I had a visceral reaction when I left, and I was so surprised by that. But I love the mountains. So where you want to go where it's low and watery, I want to go where it's high and aspeny, you know.
Have you been to Colorado anytime?
I lived there for a year.
Well, I mean, lately, have you visited?
I was out there a couple of years ago visiting friends and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just when I get out there, it's just like that thing in your soul that just goes, yep, this is me.
Yeah.
And yet I am in Kansas City. So
yeah, I like the mountains too. I mean, I do. Over the weekend, I went to the Arboretum, and I liked it.
Yeah.
So
the one with Arboretum.
Show me the mountains.
Overland Park.
The one on 179th.
Oh yeah, down that way. Yeah.
Nathan likes the woods, mountains. Yeah. So half the people like mountain. Yep. So they're all talking about the mountains. But see, Virginia is cool because Virginia has both.
Right.
So I could be within 2.5 hours.
Out of the Appalachians or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in 2.5 hours, I could be to the Blue Ridge in 2.5 hours, I could be to the mountains, back to the beach if I wanted. And I loved it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like both. And then when I went to LA, of course, in California, I was like, oh, wait a minute. It's the beach and the mountains. That is the coolest. I was like, I can see both. You know, that was kind of a neat.
Well, it's, for people outside of the country, it's like Colorado, Utah, Wyoming. There's a whole stretch in there that's along the Continental Divide in the mountains. Yeah. And it's just one stunning sight after another.
Yes. Colorado is pretty.
The only problem I have is that if you want to go in the summertime to those places, it's so crammed with tourists.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. It's like there's something synthetic about it or whatever. So I'm always trying to find those places where there aren't a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, Linda's in Urbana. That's right. She went to Urbana in Virginia.
Okay.
Nice. Oysters. Yum. See, there's lots of sea towns up the coast on the Chesapeake Bay.
Okay.
And so, hi, Bill. How are you? Good to see you.
Our people are all checking in.
I know. So nice. Thank you. How's your morning?
Y'all
are here.
All y'alls
are here.
All y'all.
My one aunt used to say yuns.
Yuns?
She used to say, yuns, get in here. I was like, yuns? I thought it was y'all. And she's like, we say yuns. Okay. So, yeah. But, so I decided to listen to the news this morning. Is everybody over their election hangover yet? I have an election hangover.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the, and it doesn't matter who wins, lose, whatever. It's still an election hangover. Well, I don't care.
The best meme that I've read so far about the whole situation is this one. Feels like we're all in divorce court waiting to see who gets custody of us.
I know who's getting custody. Bye, Christina. Have fun with your patients.
I read that and just laughed hysterically because it sort of feels like that. Everybody's kind of like, who's my daddy?
Oh, God. I hate to say, I don't want either of them as my daddy. Thank you. No. I know. No. I actually don't want either. I really did think about voting for Kanye, but I didn't do it. I was like, he's kind of zany. I kind of like his little vibe there. I almost did Kanye. I was like, but I knew it'd be a wasted vote if I did that. Only if he had like a chance to win, I would have voted for him.
Well, one of the things I've been trying to encourage people, to do is you can get so caught up in the big picture. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But the reality of our lives is 99% of what matters is tangible and in close proximity to us, right? It's like there are, I think what happens with people is you get so caught up in the media hysteria, that you feel like you're losing control, right? It's like things are out of control. But if you just stop for a minute and just take stock of your life, right, and get your bearings, you realize, wait a minute, most of my life isn't really affected by a lot of all that. It's a swirl up here,
I mean, economy about an
African proverb. There's an African proverb that says, when elephants fight, it's the grass which dies.
Right. You like that one?
I do. I love that one because it's true. Just got to remember there's a whole battle going on between the elites, you know what I mean? And they're going at each other. But our lives, we still have a lot of control about our own lives. And we don't get fearful and think that somehow or another,
And here's the thing, though, is you're saying that control of our own life. We really don't have control of our own life either. It's any outside something could happen at any moment, honestly, right? And change our whole life. So
that's true. I've been dealing with that in Zimbabwe. There's a very, very prominent business guy, multimillionaire, very flashy. They were out partying on Saturday night. He was flying down the road in his Rolls Royce, tried to overtake a car. Another car was coming the other way, spun, hit a bunch of trees, and they all died. And so now all over the world, the Zimbabwe community is in shock because this guy was very young, in his 30s, and very dynamic, and suddenly just gone.
Well,
those kind of things are really sobering. So yes, there are certain situations like that, but I'm talking about our family and our friends, our own soul. I mean, we
do have control over that. Yes.
We may not be able to control the things that happen, but we can control our reaction to the things that happen.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. All the time I say the boundaries, lots of boundaries. I mean, you can, but don't boundary yourself up to where you're not willing to do something new.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that this week. I was like, I need to do something new. What do I got going new? So I started with the Arboretum on Saturday. I thought, I'm going to go there. I haven't been there, and I bought a membership for the year. And so I think it's going to be my new happy place. So, you have to change up your environment. That helps. Change up what you're reading. Whatever you focus on is who you are at the moment. So you need to make sure that you're focusing on good things that are feeding, that positive, not, or, we need to be educated too. I mean, I realize that. I'm like, I have lost education. So I've been diving into some books to, amp it up. So, hey, good morning, Michael.
Well, one of the things I think you did that's particularly wise is with the Arboretum, because one of the things we know about the human soul is that it needs to touch nature. The more urbanized we've become and removed ourselves from the rural lifestyle where you're daily connecting with the earth and creation, we've become isolated and lived in our little concrete bunkers in the urban areas. We've become increasingly disassociated with nature, and that's not been good for our souls. There's something in the creation where there's a connectedness. I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, there's a scientific
living and breathing
proof that if you take off your shoes and walk barefoot on the earth, it does good things for your body.
Yes.
There's a connectedness there. It's we don't all know the deep dynamics of it, but you feel better, You
do. And they call it grounding. So Nathan
kids,
says,
when they play in the dirt, we're all like trying to keep our kids out of the dirt, but the truth of it is playing in the dirt actually makes them healthier.
When my kids were little, I was like, yeah, go ahead and make some mud pies, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, ew, why would we do that? I was laughing. I was like, you're not going to eat them. I'm like, you're just going to.
No, I just read a study this morning, about how they've discovered putting preschool kids outside in a garden actually causes their immune systems to go, you know what I mean? So it's like they're finally, after all these years of, trying to cuddle and keep everyone safe, they're finally realizing, no, stick the kid in the mud.
When they took away recess is when I started to be concerned. I was like, we needed the recess time. Okay. And of course, I remember recess. I have wounds about recess, but we won't go there today. It's okay. I got stuck. We had tetherball. Do you remember tetherball?
Oh yeah.
We had lots of them. We had lots of them. And one time it had rained and they said, don't go out there. Well, I was a loner. Okay. Can you believe that? I was a loner. And so I went out by the tetherballs to go play tetherball. And I got stuck in the mud up to my knees.
Oh my gosh.
I did. Yes. It was the most embarrassing thing for me. And I was already shy. Believe it or not, I was shy and a loner. And I just stayed away from people kind of at the time because it's funny how your personality is, because I think back then I kind of knew that I was one of those people that don't follow the crowd. And I thought everything that the kids were doing was stupid. Why are they doing that? That's so stupid. And so I'd go off on my own, and it wasn't because I felt, I didn't have friends or whatever, but I was just like, what they're doing, I don't want to do. So I would just do my own thing. And so I got stuck in the mud, and I think back and I thought I was so shy, but really I should have known that I was actually just a loner, kind of a leader loner. Does that make sense? Like I already was showing my personality, that I was just going to do my own thing and have my own opinion. So, I mean, it's just kind of funny. I was not a conformist. Let's put it that way. But I didn't like kickball. I hated it. And I did not like Red Rover either. I hated it. What about you?
All of you that are out there right now, and it's warm where you live, and it's going to get cold. You need to get outside. It's like Nathan said. Get in the woods. No, it's true. There's
every
something.
Day.
I mean, if you look at it from the biblical perspective, Adam means from the earth. I mean, it's about the earth. In other words, there's a connectedness in the creative narrative with humans and the earth. And one of the things that's happened over time is mankind has become innovative and built all these things. What we've done is we've created these synthetic
cement world
reality. So, we've created all these
concrete jungle.
And then with technology, right?
Yep.
We've become even more isolated because we can sit now in front of a box and be entertained, right? And what's happened is we've become increasingly isolated from creation. And so, I mean, even if it's just a little bit of a walk, I mean, if you're just somebody that doesn't have the physicalness, just get in a chair and go outside. I mean, having the sun on your face, smelling fresh air, go to a park. It's good for the soul, because what always happens in climates like ours is the snow comes, we stay inside, Now, I grew up in Wisconsin, and it was kind of funny because back in the day, our moms weren't about protecting us. Our moms were about get the hell outside and play. And they bundled us up and sent us outside, and it could have been 15 degrees out there, and there we were. I mean, I look back at my childhood, and it's like I probably spent even like over Christmas, and I mean, we were outside all the time, in the snow. Right? There was no stay. Oh, it's too cold out. That was not an excuse.
Yeah, I mean, we actually really did walk to school in snow drifts. I mean, I had to put the Wonder Bread things over my shoes and the whole deal.
Well, it's like my mom, we'd all complain. Well, Mom, it's so cold, it hurts your face. Well, then she put a scarf around our face. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, well, stay in, honey. It's just too dangerous for your skin. It was always, we'll put a scarf around that. You know what I mean? It was always a solution. It wasn't, the thing didn't immobilize us. We had to overcome it all the time. You know what I mean? It was a solution to beat it.
Why doesn't Michael want to take his shoes off and go grounding? I don't understand.
His feet smell.
Oh.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to show anybody his feet.
He's really saving us from I'm
just going to sit inside and look at nature pics on Facebook.
He would lose the atmosphere.
You would do that. I think you would do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I personally love nature. The Arboretum was a great place. I went there kind of to get some shots for my websites and stuff like that.
Oh, there you go.
I like to do it all myself. So yeah, people look at you funny when you're by yourself taking selfies, though, at the place. I'm just saying, they think you're just a little bit, what's up with that girl over there? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, kiss my grits. I don't care. It was nice. They have a bird watching part, and I think I saw an oriole. I thought I did, but it wasn't. It was a white, speckled, like black speckles and red. I don't know what kind of bird that is. It was beautiful, but they have all these bird feeders, and it was really nice just to sit there until the one little kid comes with his dad, and his name was Noah. I know this because his dad said it multiple times. And he said it in the nicest, kindest way to the child that was having a tantrum. So he was just like, Noah, now we have to be quiet over here because people are trying to watch the birds. Ma, he yells, and it was just hilarious because it was, it goes with the age. He was like probably about 4.
Right.
And so he's trying to tell him to be quiet in the bird watching area. I was laughing. I was like, dude, your kid is not going to be quiet in the bird. Yeah, you all got to get a clue on this. And so I just sat there and kind of giggled, and he was like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I was like, I was like, he's scaring all the birds away, but hey, whatever. Right. He's got to learn some time, I guess. So the father finally took him away. And then all the birds came back, and I was just laughing. I was just like, the little kids, they don't know, they're not going to be quiet in nature watching birds. It's not going to happen.
Well, getting philosophical on Monday morning, one of the things that I wrote about in my book, I'm looking at trends, generational trends. And one of the things that is really interesting is that those of us that would say we're boomers or maybe even Gen X, that we grew up in a world where our parents were sort of the center of everything. And most of the time we were told to get lost. Like the parents would get together and the kids were always told you're not to be right. seen or heard, like get lost. So we would we were always sent outside. We lived in the woods, we built forts, we built tree forts, we played football. I mean, we just, and there was no adults that were supervising anything. It was like we were just we grew up in neighborhoods where there was 15, 20 kids, there was ages and packing orders, and we just figured it out, right? It was a very fluid
and the parents wondered where all their tools went. I remember that stage.
What happened is that as you get into the millennial generation, they grew up in a world where everything was organized for them. I was an athlete, again, we played neighborhood games, no refs. No, we just made up everything as we went. Right. My kids all grew up in a league with right. And they basically showed up and were told where to fit. And it was like that with everything, whether it was in school or whatever. And so my kids grew up in a world where there were systems in place that you fit into, right? Where I grew up in a world that was completely different. It was, for people, we could use the word wild, wild west. You know what I mean? It was a fluid kind of right? Yes. And if you weren't the biggest and the strongest, you needed to be sly and smart. You know what I mean? You had to figure out how to get around the older ones, the more right? It was a constant,
yes.
And I think of the saying, resistance builds strength, right? You grew because of what you had to overcome.
Yes.
My kids all grew up in a really safe world, right? And if something wasn't fair, it was an adult who stepped in and arbitrated, right? It was always someone else making the decisions, right? And I just, as I've watched all this sort of transpire, I see, as we're sort of leaving the stage of life and younger generations are coming in, there's this expectation that somebody should set up a system for us, right? Set up the system for us and be the referee and make sure everything is fair and equal, right? So,
yeah.
Anyways, so it's kind of interesting what's going on. We're in an interesting cultural shift right now.
We're in a flux. I like that word, flux. We're in a flux, but we're always in a flux.
Right.
So it's kind of like, okay. So I let my kids play outside, in the cul-de-sac. They kind of had a little neighborhood gang thing going on. I mean, I don't think I protected them like that. I let them be who they were.
When you come home and complain, like, something didn't go right? Mm-hmm. And you got your feelings hurt or whatever. And, I would go home. You know what my mom would say?
What's that?
Get your ass back out there and work it out. Like, there was never any, nobody came to my rescue. We were all told, go figure it out yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? The parents never arbitrated anything, So,
yeah. So yeah, somebody joined us. I don't know how to say their name. Americans have culture news to my ears. Okay. Well, today's the day.
Yeah.
Today must be the day. So Okay, so today is November 9th, and I have a devotional.
Okay.
And it said, may we be God's currency to spend, his love to lavish, his tools to employ, nothing but him, but all of him and nothing less. Oh, may my heart be enlarged to receive more of him. And I thought that was a good start to the week. Mm-hmm. I think that's his abundance. I was listening to someone this weekend, and they were saying that a lot of people pray to get blessings from God, to get something. They're not praying to empower something. They're praying to get something. Does that make sense? Like,
well, did you see my post on Sunday?
No, I didn't.
That is that there's this cry in the American church for God to move.
Right.
And what I was pointing out is until we shift the message around, because the message for the last 20 years has been God exists for us.
Right. Oh, right. Not the other way around. Yes.
And the reality of it is we exist for him. But until that's switched back around, you're not going to see what everybody's wanting. Because it's self-centered. It's driven by selfishness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
I agreed with Anthony there. I saw his statement, and it's true. It was funny growing up. I mean, you'd fight and squabble, right? Yeah. And then you just get on with it. I mean, you learned how, you know what I mean? And part of the reason is there wasn't anything else, right? Yeah. So you were forced by the fact that you lived together to figure it out. And so, yes, we fight all the time. We'd argue. I mean, you used to play sports. Oh, he's out of bounds. He didn't catch that. Oh, right? I mean, but guess what? We'd always work it out ourselves. And if it wasn't fair, we tried to go get the referee, i.e. our parents, to step in, and they would go, no. Yes. Figure it out yourselves. And that was, our parents were all about us growing up and taking responsibility and working it out ourselves. We now live in a culture where if you're an educator, you see this, right? When I was growing up, the teacher was always right. Even if she was wrong, she was right.
Yeah. The parents never challenged the teacher being right or wrong.
Right. Because
now they're challenged all the time.
It was her class. She made the rule. Didn't matter if you agreed or didn't agree.
Yeah. Right? Now it's like
the parents just go after the teachers.
Yes. They don't support the teachers. And it's hard enough to be a teacher. My goodness. And then now you have all these parents challenging whatever you said to their child, like I told him to sit down because he wasn't paying it. He wasn't listening. And they were like, well, you don't talk to my child like that.
With this morning, how everything is switched poles.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's
in other words, even within the church world, God exists for me. No.
Yeah. Like I don't know how to say his name or her. I'd say it's he. God has given us more than enough. We should work for God. He shouldn't work for us. I agree with that. Totally. We respected authority.
It's interesting right now. We're in this very interesting season. And what concerns me deeply is it's, when you look at what's plagued humanity since the beginning of time, it's always self-centeredness, right?
Yes.
It's, as I did a show early, I think it was in May, where I talked about the pandemic of narcissism. In other words, narcissism, which we know is an actual clinical problem. But what's happened is our culture has taken on narcissistic tendencies.
Traits.
I.e. selfies,
which is different.
All these things where we're the center of attention. That's what's our normal has been foreign for thousands of years, right? So what's happened is we're in an age right now where it's all about me.
Yeah.
And the truth is, if you really want to get to the root of where the conflict is, even in our own country, is that it's self-centered. It's everybody is saying, what about me? I'm aggrieved. I'm hurt. I'm this. It's not fair. Right. And so in other words, we're fragmenting. because we're all going, I want me, right? And so there's a systemic narcissism that's crept into our culture right now, which is affecting everything, all of our relationships, everything. So it's something I guess what I'm after, it's like the word I want to use is the spirit of the age.
Okay.
It's the spirit of the age is narcissism. It's self-centeredness.
Yes, it is.
Right.
And that's why everybody post election hangover is having some major issues, because selfishly they want what the outcome that they wanted, and they're being like little babies and having tantrums.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little hissy fit. I didn't get what I wanted. So
I don't know what new little group has joined us, but
I know.
Hi, welcome whoever you are. Yeah. So
well, I don't know if you want to welcome all these people.
I'm not, but at the same time, I wonder how they've jumped in here. But okay.
Well, it's how it happens out there in the social media world. It is. Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to monitor things very closely, because if you get out there and get some exposure, you end up having lots of little birds that want to drop seeds in your,
we call them trolls.
Yes.
Anyway, so Michael Jones says, so Timothy Keller just posted something. There are two seemingly contradictory currents making our society today: the denunciation of all claims of absolute truth, and also a fanaticism in which one group is absolutely right, nothing is ambiguous, and divergent views should be destroyed. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Absolutely. It's ridiculous.
Keller tends to be somebody. Keller's somebody that I find has wisdom. And what I mean by wisdom is that they have a way of stepping back and looking at the bigger picture.
Yes.
And so I like Keller.
Yes.
He seems to be a voice of reason in the madness.
I have 5 books I'm reading. 5. I mean, I'm like
at once.
Yes.
Now that's ADHD on steroids.
Need to catch up on each one of them, and so I want to learn something from each one of them. So I'll read a chapter in one, and then the other, and then I'm just all over the place. And then don't even get me on the computer to start, working on graphics and stuff, because then I'm on it for hours. So, it's funny how this stuff can take up your time and take up your energy, and that's why I had to disconnect and go to nature, exactly what we were talking about earlier. I had to disconnect from technology. Even though I had my phone and I was taking pictures and whatever, I still was present with nature. I wasn't present with, everything else. But, I feel like we just have to do that. We to stay steady. So, hello, Marcy. Good morning. Nice to meet you. She's one of my new Facebook friends. So welcome. So yes, a narcissistic generation. That word is used so much. Remember David Lee? I had him on my SASH coaching page a couple weeks ago. He did really well. And we were talking about the real narcissistic personality disorder, though, not just the narcissistic traits. And I think people get messed up in knowing the difference between the two. But I feel like everybody's become very, very selfish. And I think that's where we have to, in our communities, to serve. And right before the holidays, I was thinking I wanted to arrange. We had talked about earlier in the year doing something as a community for Awakenings Within and doing some serving of some type. So if you have any ideas about that, because we thought we were going to give to teachers, but of course the teachers didn't get back in their classrooms, so they don't really need the supplies, like we had talked about. So around the holidays, I know people just are a little more generous and do think of others that don't have anything or, need some things. So if you guys can think of something.
Narcissists, for people who don't know, who may be tuning in and not sure where it came from, Narcissus. It's a Greek mythology, but basically the long and short of it is that Narcissus fell in love with his image. So when we use the word narcissism, we're talking about the love of self. an obsessive love of self. And that's basically what's happening. We're in an age right now where we're obsessed with self. And one of the, so it's not only, obsessed with ourself in terms of our image, it's also self-gratification. And if you go back and study the rise and fall of civilizations, one of the traits of a descending civilization is self-gratification. In other words, everybody's looking, at how to satisfy themselves. And so you take, it becomes a take culture, right? We're all taking, pulling, grabbing, and right now we're in such a season in our country. And so, some of it, gets wrapped up in political correctness and other things, but down at the root of so much, and that's why, I, as much as, as I know elections are important and all of that, neither political parties have the actual solution to solving what really ails our culture. Because as I also posted last week, government is a fruit, not a root. In other words, government, the state of our government right now is a reflection, a mirror of what we are inside
society.
Society. So a lot of people keep saying our government is messed up. No. Yes, in one sense it is, but it's a fruit. It's a result of something else. And so what has me deeply concerned is if it's like going to see the doctor, right? If you don't diagnose the actual root problem, you never actually get well. I mean, you might take a lot of different things that will all do, but you won't ever actually, fix the root issues. So the root issue that ails our culture, they're spiritual issues. They're issues of the spirit, issues of the soul.
That's right. And Marcy said that too. Yes. And Christina says nurses need your love. So expound on that, Christina. What do you guys need? What is it? She's a nurse practitioner. So let's see. God's spirit first. Yes. And
that's what people, when they focus on the gospel narrative, right? One of the things that's happened, and not wrongly, but so much of the focus of Jesus' life is on the last day of his life, which means the last three, the crucifixion, and the resurrection, right?
Yes.
So much of Christianity focuses on that, and that's not necessarily wrong. But what gets lost is Jesus' message, and he had a 3-year message, right? That was continually focused on dealing with humanity's biggest problem, which is our self-centeredness.
Right.
So for 3 years of his life, he's teaching and sharing and doing all these things about teaching us how to overcome our worst problem, which is our self-centeredness, right?
Yes.
And somehow that all got lost. Then what's made it particularly even worse is then somehow about 20, 30 years ago, there came this whole thinking into the Christian church about how God existed for us. And he's just sitting up there in heaven like a giant ATM machine. You just press the right numbers and everything you want's coming your way, baby.
Yeah, no, that's what I was talking about earlier. People pray for the things to get, they're not praying for, they're not praying for what it is that he wants them to do to actually get it also. And sometimes we're praying for the wrong things. It's out of selfishness versus out of what he wants us to do.
So here's the problem. Think about this. This is where the kingdom of God collides head on. In our culture, to gain, you take. Right? In the kingdom of God, you give to get.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Jesus, and what I
people don't talk
polarity. Right. It's exactly the opposite.
Well, I tested it with tithing one time. I actually have a story where and I tithe to different places now that I don't have a church home, so to speak. So tithing can be 10% going to, whatever ministry or, whatever, something that you're behind. But I had $10 in my bank account one time, and I was praying on what to give, like I did every Sunday, whatever. And God said $100. And I was like, but I don't have $100. Like, I was like, what do you mean? I can't, send a check and I don't have it. And God was teaching me a lesson in early times of what tithing meant. So I gave $100. And when I got it, the check went through, and then I had $110 in my account at the end. And I still don't have a clue how that happened or why, but it was God teaching me a lesson about tithing. And so I was like, okay, so I had to step out in faith in that, now that doesn't happen all the time. Okay. I'm not telling everybody to go write bouncing checks to ministries, because that's not a good thing. But what I'm saying is that at the time, it was a crucial time in my life to learn about tithing and how God would provide. So that was an interesting, giving to get, or, whatever, how God will turn it around, so it works different for everyone. That's just my own personal story on what happened to me at the time. And my ex-husband was just like, he was blown. He still didn't understand. He goes, it must have been a clerical error. Like, he's just like trying to figure it out. I was like, I was trying to figure it out. Okay. So Christina says, nurses working on Thanksgiving, maybe bring healthy snacks to the hospital. Oh, that's nice. A unit Thanksgiving dinner for all the nurses working. That is if they let you bring in food because of COVID. That's would they let you? Is a question. I mean, it's so weird. Oh, I did listen to the news this morning, and Pfizer just released that they have a vaccine that's 90% been clinical tested and been working. But they're not going to come out and say that yet, because they have 2 more months of side effects to I find it interesting. The timing is always so interesting, right? I love the timing. The timing's great. So maybe we will have a vaccine. Maybe we won't. I'm not going to say I'm an anti-vax or a vaxxer. I'm not going to promote either way. So just giving you the news, either way. And of course it's Pfizer, I was thinking to myself, yeah, Pfizer, they're a pretty big one. So I don't know. It's this week is different than last week, isn't it? I mean, doesn't it? It even feels different. I'm like, oh, okay. So how are you feeling?
So what does it feel like to you? So you said that it feels different. So explain how it
feels different, because when you're building up to something, and you've been watching all these things building up to something, and things are just such in a negative state. And now, it came to the election day, and now it's like the hangover of it. Everybody's kind of calmed down a little bit.
Well, the problem is you have the country split in half, right? So you have 2 very different worldviews. Half of the country feels like it's resolved and it's over. Half of the country think it's unresolved and not over. So you have 2 very different worldviews existing at the same time, which leaves us sort of in this state of limbo. And one of the phrases I've used many times in our discussion is living in the hallway. There's we've all been through seasons in our lives where, something ended, like we were in a room, maybe it was our job, right? And then we either got fired or laid off or whatever. And we've exited a room, and we're in the hallway, and we keep trying to get into another room to the next thing, and you can't. And you're in this awkward place, right? You're, between things. I call that living in the hallway of life. And it feels like for half of the country, we're living in the hallway.
Yeah, I think so.
And I know people don't like that, because as Americans, we want to be there. Like it's like we like yes or no, in or out.
Yeah.
We like resolve, right?
Right.
And so we're in this weird state right now where people are kind of figuring out. Now, having said all that, we were here 20 years. You remember the whole Bush Gore thing. So, you know, in the end, it's all going to get sorted out and people just need to get patient. But, you know, they still got our lives, right? We still got jobs. We still got family. We still got, you know, I still got a 94-year-old mom in Chicago. You know, I still got kids and grandkids. I'm headed over there tonight to see the crew, you know, and so it's just life goes on, you know.
That's right. I like what Christina said, make a gratitude change. I like that. That's nice too. But Marcy, we're here for lesson of love, begins with God.
So yeah, we're just in an interesting season right now, you know, and so, but again, as we were saying earlier, there's a whole lot of things you can control. So it's not, you know, it's
not out of your realm.
Like you're, you know, you're the victim that somehow or another, all these big forces, you know what I mean? Yeah, all that's happening, but there's most of your life.
Yes.
You know, is tangible and in.
I'm just going to ask one thing.
Yeah.
One thing, please don't let the gas prices go back up so high. Please keep the gas prices down. Please. Because that was crazy. We were paying $3 something at one time. Remember that? That was horrible. And now it's, you know, down to a nice $1 something, you know. So that's all I'm going to ask you, government.
Well, and then a lot of people were hoping to get a stimulus check so that for the holidays. And I don't even know, you know, at this point, there's no way that's going to just even if they said yes, this isn't going to come, you know, in 6 weeks. So
Nathan's is not going to happen. I'm not sure what's not going to happen. My gas prices or I'm not really sure.
So remember, we've said this before. There's a saying, you know, that
there's nothing new under the sun.
The guy who came up with the concept of the Logos, which Paul used, was the one who said the only constant is change.
Yeah, that's what I said. There's nothing.
You know, it's like it's so interesting because we come from a culture where we want to minimize risk, right? It's like we have insurance, we have all these things where we minimize risk, and we don't like change. You know what I mean?
We don't,
and yet it's the thing that happens the most. Things are always changing. I mean,
people
are changing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So change is constant. So it's like we have to learn to realize that we live, you know, relationships change, you know.
Yes. Your pant size changes.
Everything changes. And so learning to live with change, accept it, you know. So then what happens? Changes. So if change is constant, then the skill that one needs is adaptability, right?
Yes.
Right. In other words, so if you already know that the most constant is change, then you have to learn to adapt. Adaptability.
And how do we do that? We survey that, we navigate that. We have to center. We have to center, not meaning selfishly, but we have to know where our foundation is and be centered.
Your values.
Where your values are.
Yeah, your values. In other words,
your values.
You know, one of the things that we're constantly confronted with is what our values are, meaning that there are situations we're confronted with every day where we have to make a choice. Well, those choices that you make are based on your values, right? Well, people who don't have strong values are wishy-washy.
Yes, they are.
Right?
Yes.
They'll change.
I remember that.
Wind, right?
Yes.
Liars. You know,
been there, done that.
Liars, manipulate, thief, right? They have low values. Their values are very right, or they don't have any values, right?
Or they're singularly focused,
right?
Depending on
values are your character. In other words, your values actually are what define you. That's who you are. Like if you stripped everything away, all your physiology and all that stuff, what's left is your character, your values.
Yeah.
And if you if you have strong values, decision making is actually quite easy.
Yeah.
Right. So people who have so you hear people say, well, they have a strong, they have a strong sense of self. Right.
Yeah.
Well, what they're really saying is those people know who they are because they know what their values are. They have very clearly defined values.
Right.
So so sometimes we don't even think about it. Like we don't even stop and actually take stock. Like we don't sit down and go, well, what are my values? Like, what are those things? So they're not real clear.
The wild card to that though, Bob, is shame. So you could have values and you could have done something that undermined your values or didn't line up with your values. And then this other thing comes along, and then that's shame. Right. Mm-hmm. So then you're questioning what your values are. And then the shame kind of, shame kind of changes that sometimes.
Well, I don't know that, does it change it or does it challenge your right?
It challenges. Yeah.
Right. In other words, I don't think it changes your values, but what it does is it challenges your right to have those. And so you're not worthy of those things.
Right. And that's what my position and coaching is always to get that overcoming over the shame and knowing that you can make one decision to change back to your values and to line up with your values. And there's no time spent that you have to labor in that. You need to just make that decision and move forward. And I think that's where people get stopped up. That's where their stopping blocks are, is that shame actually, covers that up and they stay in that place too long. They don't move to the next day. They don't move to the next thing. God is very forgiving and God is very loving, and you can make that decision in one day. Like say yesterday, I didn't make some good decisions, but you have to line up today to go forward, and that's what, I feel like people get stuck in that shame coat. They get stuck in their shame coat, so they don't move forward. And so I just feel like, we need to, move forward, and how do we do that? So, okay, here we go. Michael. Oh, hi, Dr. B. Dr. B is here. Bonjour. Shame is not good. Yes. Shame is what hurts, people. He was feeling pretty good till the shame comment.
No, Mikey.
Mikey. He gave a really good interview last Thursday. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I thought
that was really good. I thought that was really good. So I liked our dialogue. I figured it would be good though.
So I think I see, my view of shame is it's the great immobilizer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of it's a force that wants to immobilize you, paralyze you.
Yes. Right? And it does. And people get stuck there. Exactly. They get totally stuck there.
Its intent is to try to just immobilize you so that you're paralyzed. You can't. Right. And so.
Well, that enemy uses it for he uses it definitely.
Yeah. So, that's why, again, having strong values, kind of understanding. So if you have strong values, it makes it a little more difficult for shame to get in.
It does.
Right. In other words, if one of your values, right, is you, and I don't mean selfish you, I mean understanding the fact that God is for you.
Yes.
Right. In other words, you're somebody not because you're somebody because he says you're somebody.
Yeah, I think people lose the whole you were created for a purpose. And and the problem is when people don't line up with what they're or don't even know that they were created for a purpose, and they don't know what their purpose is. They kind of can tell by their personality. Your personality really is a cue. It's a big clue on what your purpose is. But
Well, people there's this constant battle about, love of self. You see what I mean? And I see this struggle a lot in our community, and well, I got to love myself. Right. Well, it's perspective, right? Because there's the narcissistic love of self.
Right.
Right. And then there's the love of God sense of self, and they're two completely different things, right?
Yes.
Recognizing the fact that God so loved the world,
yes,
that he laid his life down, right?
Right.
Valuable. Someone laid their life down for you.
Yes.
God the Father loved you. He made a sacrifice for you. That's what makes you valuable.
Right.
Your value is because who you're connected with, which is very different from the love of self, right? Because I'm God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's a very subtle twist. But if you go back and you study the root issue, right? You go back to the garden where the whole story is laid out. What did Adam and Eve want to be? They want to be their own God. They wanted to be God.
Right. They wanted to know all and be all.
Good and evil, you be like God, right? So they wanted to be God. If you go back and study some of the theology behind where Satan or the devil comes, it's the same thing. There was a rebellion, right? He wanted to be like God, right?
Yeah, he wanted to praise himself, yes.
Right. So you see where some of my tension is with our world of self-helpers. Is that there's a whole side of this that I think is actually not healthy, because they're wanting to teach people that you're God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's subtle, but there's a difference between I'm God and he's God. And I find my value because he's the creator.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
When I find interesting, and I've talked to many people with a spiritual journey who had roots of Christianity, and they strayed off of that and went to a spiritual path, and they call it spirituality, and into their spiritual path, and then only to find that they came back to the original, value system, or they found Jesus in a bigger way. I've heard it many times, and it actually happened to me as well. So I kind of journeyed off the path going, I need to seek this out. And sometimes I think we do have to seek that out, and then to come back around and go, okay, my worth is in God's love, like you're saying, not my own. I mean, I have confidence in myself and self-esteem only because God kept me full of his love and his peace. It wasn't me generating it for myself. It was him generating it to me to actually feel that way about myself, and to feel that worthiness that you're talking about, that God made me feel the worthy peace, and I look back at my life and I go, okay, it was always God that lifted me up and kept me up. It wasn't other people. It was always him. So, and some people are, do emit God's love, right? And they share it, and they try to help you through things. But in the end, I mean, it still is God's love that's trying to fill you up and give you that peace of.
But it's even our DNA. I mean, we're sons and daughters.
Yeah, of a king.
Right? In other words, yes. So it's not even just just a feeling of God loving us. There's actual, genealogical. You want to use that word. We're sons. We're part of the family.
Right. It's funny. I've had this conversation.
Heaven, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he sees us as sons and daughters. It's the same. If we have healthy relationships with our parents, it's that same thing. Their words are life and death. You know what I mean? If we have parents that love us, our sense of self is very strong. If we have parents that shamed us, our sense of self is very negative, right?
Right. It's funny. A friend of mine and I were talking about yesterday. And the questioning was, why did God create us? Mm-hmm. What were we created? Why? Mm-hmm. Why do we have to be married? Why do we? All the whys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always in the mystery, right? Of, And I said, well, he was lonely. He wanted fellowship, and that answer didn't satisfy the person. So. It comes to, theologically, people have to go through all of that as, if you want to ask the whys, what is your answer when somebody asks you that?
He's a creator. And what do creators do?
They create.
They create, right?
I didn't talk about aliens lately. They've created aliens too. Anyway.
Okay. No, but I think creators create. And so I think what God was looking for was his expression. He wanted to express himself. And so he created the heavens and the earth and humanity. These, we're a part of a massive tapestry that's driven by this creative spirit, right? Mm-hmm. And he made us in his likeness and image. It's the same way. Every piece of art is in the likeness and the image of the artist. Now, it doesn't mean it looks like them, but it's their nature, right?
Yeah.
It's an expression of who they are. And so I just think that that's exactly what happened. God, we're an expression of his creative art, So you see, you've got a whole bunch of people jumping on here. So you're out there in the system now, or we're out there in the system. So you're gonna have to be quick on the delete.
I am. So there we go. So okay, he said the answer is simple. Okay, simple. He created this world and even allowed sin so that his glory would be known. Yeah. So we could see the, okay, well, there we go. Block. Delete.
Yeah.
Delete and block. What is going on here?
You know what? So you know what I'm calling this session? Troll Monday.
Troll Monday.
It's Troll Monday. Anyways.
They get on here.
Here, so.
Oh, me too. So yeah, like go to work or something.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, thank you guys for joining us today, whomever you are. Even the trolls, thanks.
Exactly. So head out there. Head out there during the week knowing you're loved in the midst of all chaos and craziness where everybody's screaming, look at me, follow me,
Yeah, do something.
Yeah.
Do something good this week.
Amen.
Think of something good. All right. I'll see you on Thursday.
All right.
Peace out, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So